I mean, I love it. You can create the reality that you want.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things that we want to stress on
Mm.
that too is that, is that what we are teaching everyone, people are doing it every day anyhow. They just don't understand or realize that they can direct where all of that energy and all that attention is going. And because you're doing it, if you're doing it, why not do it in to the way you would like it instead of just being on the ocean in that little rowboat going from wave to wave and just letting the your environment direct where your direction is going to go or what island you might end up crashing on or whatever. um while instead, you know put a motor on that little boat, and direct it and steer it or sail. But nevertheless, though, you're doing it anyhow.
Correct.
And when
And,
every time we have that moment where
Oops, sorry, did I hit Ross? Sorry, Ross, I accidentally clicked the wrong button there. Oh, nope, you're muted. There you
I said, but so every time we have that moment, where we're going, I was just thinking about that. Or I was just this, or I was, it's just like, oh, that is so weird. I've always wanted that to happen. Or I've always wanted to meet that person. That's it happening. But we shrug it off or excuse it to just happenstance, circumstance, serendipity. We've come up with so many these terminologies not to identify those events, but to excuse them. It just happened. No, it didn't just happen. It happened for a reason. I can
yeah,
sit and I've done this too. So I've sat and made lists of events in my life that could have been turning points for me. They could have been had I understood then what I understand now. And there's no regret there whatsoever. It's just like, wow, if I had done this or this had happened, and I'm not talking about instances where, things were, life was in chaos or anything like that. I'm just talking just a pivotal point in time where I could have made a different decision and it would have changed things. And it was so obscure, it was so out of nowhere at the time. But now when I can sit down and just like, let me think about this, because goes off of what Gary and I are creating with the our Sinks and Portal Master Lab that's coming up next year. And it just really, I mean, we start working on stuff, and then I'm just like, let me think about something here. It's like, oh yeah, oh, there's that. And it's just, it's it's not a good thing or it's a bad thing. It just is. But it happens to us all the time. So
so Ross,
why? Go ahead.
yeah, I just want to clarify that. So, you know, if you manifest what you want and you really feel it from your heart, that's what you want. And if you do it repeatedly, would you say that the chances of it happening uh, would be greater, or it would happen, or you have to manifest in such a way that it already happened and so it will happen? So
Well,
which
so here's where a lot of people fall short of that is you want to you have a particular thing that you want to manifest into your life. And Gary, step in whenever you'd like. But what we do is we create this image, this idea in our head of exactly how it has to happen and exactly how it has to look. And exactly, we put so many parameters on that it appears in front of us, but we don't recognize it because, well, no, I didn't ask for a red ball. I asked for a blue ball with tiny little dots on it. That's exactly how I wanted it. So you sent me a red ball.
Yeah.
Not realizing that, maybe we could have peeled off the top of that red ball and there was actually a blue ball inside. Or we could have taken the red ball and we could have painted it blue ball. Or if we put it's one of those balls that you put it in cold water and it changes color. But we have all these limitations. Or there's the big limitation that we we talk about in Wired for Success is, that we're like, I want my blue ball with little dots. I want it to be this big, and I want it by Thursday. And then it doesn't happen on Thursday. You're like, this thing is stupid.
Yeah. So there's a story kind of can wrap it up for that, and then I'll add on to that as well. So there was a priest who went out into the ocean in his boat, and he full trust in God, and so he thought, yeah, I don't need to have someone else with me. I can go on my own. Break all the rules. That type of guy. He's like, God will take care of me. Heads out on the boat, and he's out on the boat enjoying the afternoon, out there for a while, and before he knows it, he's something's strange. The boat seems to be sinking. He's not understand why, but somewhere along the line, whether before he left the dock or during his ride, a hole ended up in the bottom of the boat, and so it started filling with water. And he's like, but by the time he noticed, it was too late, right, to do anything about it. And so then the boat sinks. And so he's in the water and he's gasping, right? He's trying to stay awake, stay afloat and whatnot. And he's like, God, please help me. And this is not a religious thing. This is just to get the concept of what I'm talking about here. God, help me. Help me. I need help. And so he's flailing around and, trying to stay afloat. And this canoe comes by, right? This kind of canoe comes by, says, hey, come on in. He says, no, leave me alone. God's going to help me. And so the canoe goes, all right, fine. And then he's doing it again for a little bit longer. Then a boat comes by, and boat goes, stops and says, come on, and throws on the ding. And says, no, God's going to help me. And then that goes by. And then a helicopter comes by, and the helicopter drops down the ladder, and he goes, leave me alone, God's going to help me. So so the helicopter takes off, and the guy ends up drowning. He drowns and he goes up to pearly gates, and he's at the gates, and he's, okay, God, I believe in you so much. I've dedicated my life to you. I've done all the things you asked me to do. And, I've spread your word and your message, and I was down there and I had full trust in you, and you didn't come to my aid. Why? What happened? And God goes, I sent you a canoe, a boat, and a helicopter. What else did you need?
He wanted the hand to come down from the clouds and swoop him up. I mean, he had an idea in his head, and everything else was just, no, that's just not up to my standards.
Right.
Or
so
whatever.
We're stuck on that. And then there's that element of it, is that we get locked into it having to be a certain way, based on the limitations of our conscious mind awareness of how things can happen, when they can happen, where they can happen. That's one component. The other component is that manifestation is a very intricate recipe. Okay. And so if you go to and I had to learn this the hard way growing up, that, I thought, I the first book I read, and if you guys haven't read it, you should. It's called Psycho-Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz.
Yep.
And Psycho-Cybernetics is a great book. And there was a lot of elements to it. I started reading it when I was 13 years old. And so with my limited mind frame at 13 years old, I got locked into the idea that there was these one or two aspects that I needed to really get down, because for me at the time, I resonated with them. And, I got them more than I did some of the other concepts. And so I worked on those elements and wondered why my life wasn't turning around. And but I was diligent. I mean, I kept doing it. Then I went to learn more about those components, and I was focused learning that piece and that piece, and I learned more about it. I'm doing more of this. I think I'm better at this. I'm consistent with this, and my visualization skills are like off the charts. I'm doing my affirmations, like with full tilt, and worked on all those aspects, and still things weren't showing up for me. And I couldn't get it, and I got frustrated, so my belief in my capacity, my ability to it started to diminish, right? So then that became another variable that I didn't even think about as a component, but the fact that I would do these things and they didn't show up the way that I wanted to, there was another part that I wasn't even aware of as a part of the ingredients that was starting to lose power, right? That I might have had just the mere the teenage cojones that I had, to claim that I could have this and do this and be unstoppable and all this kind of stuff, right? That started to wane. And but my focus was on these two components, because it was, you do this, you do visualization, you do it this way, you do that, and you have this internal dialogue and those kinds of things. And it just didn't happen. And what I didn't get at the time was, and I learned over the years, that it's to consciously alter and shift reality, because we're doing it all the time, right? That we can't deny that we're creating reality moment by moment. But to consciously go in and want to make a specific shift, there's a lot of variables, and the variables compound when you have a version of the reality that's so vastly different from what you're used to, that there's no, and there's a term we use in the public speaking realm, gradient. There's no gradient from where I was to where I wanted to be, to have that reality to kind of unfold. I wanted it now. I wanted to wake up and this was, I wanted to be out of the situations that I was in, right? I wanted to be doing these kinds of things, like have this skill set, have this ability, and had this idea that it could happen instantaneously. And I believe that it can, but you need to have all the ingredients in place. You need to master different components, which is I talked about on Thursday. I was learning about the structure of a magic and the matrix, right? I was learning the structure of the matrix at the time, and but I didn't master the language of the matrix. That came later in life, right? And then once I could understand those two and start to master those two, then I could tap into the spirit of the matrix and have that come along to play with all the components. And then once that happened and had those things, and then I was ready to transcend the matrix. Right? So there's all these different components that we think that, just because we read a book, or just because I heard something on a podcast, or just because I heard this one component. And that's why Ross and I are coming up with so many different angles for you guys. So you're getting all the different ingredients, you're getting aspects of them, we're awakening some of that in some of you in some of the streams, and some of you we're taking you deeper depending on where you're at with that particular topic.
One of the things that Gene, you remember the live stream that we did, the new 5G network. And that was and still remains one of my favorites, because for a quick recap is, we are a signaling system. We're an antenna, and that antenna is sending out data and it's receiving data, just like your cell phone. Okay, it's doing that. And when I pick up my cell phone and I call Gary, I have a specific message that I'm sending him, or I'm telling him. Gary, your wife called me. She wants you to pick up eggs, milk, cheese, and on your car. So that's the message that I am consciously sending to Gary. So now we're going to say that. So, but what am I unconsciously sending to Gary? Okay, so if your body's the cell phone, the antenna, and we're constantly sending a signal out to the matrix. We're constantly doing it, always, always. Okay, I want to be rich. I want a new car. I want a new house. I want a loving relationship. I want to be healthy. I want my dog to be healthy. I want this and this and this and this. This is what we are consciously sending to the matrix. Okay, that's what we're doing. We're doing our affirmations and, reading things. Oh yeah, yeah, I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. But life gets in the way. Things start to kind of, and then your true messages are going out. This just sucks. This doesn't work. I'm so broke. I can't even afford this. I'm so, oh gosh, I feel terrible this morning. Gosh, I'm so sick. I just don't feel good. I never feel good. I'm just blah, blah, blah. That's the true message that you're sending out. That's the real message, because it's linked in most cases to a deeper, more powerful emotion. And that motion is the wave that everything is riding on.
Which is a part of the structure of the matrix. So if you're not working on that part of the structure and you're working on some of the other aspects, then it can't support you to accelerate that manifestation.
Exactly.
So when you say language, are you saying that is to talk about the positiveness continuously? When Gary, you were talking about language and the language you use.
Yeah. So there's
Gary, before you answer that, I want to make this real clear, because we're going to go over this next month. Next month, we're going to be talking about language.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, we're going to start to and such. That was one of the biggest lessons that Gary taught me when we first met. He just like, dude, you need to clean your language up. And he wasn't talking, I was using cuss words and all this kind of stuff and such. He was talking about,
he was filthy.
All right. I already gave you credit. I'm just done. I'm done. But it was, it was, and they, it stuck with me. It stuck with me. And I'm just like, because again, it made me, whoa, first I'm kind of like, huh, what? I said, my language is good and such. But then again, awareness and my want to learn and such. I'm like, huh, well, let me start.
Good compared to what, right? That's the
let me start tweaking this. Yeah, it's powerful.
So when I'm talking about language, there are different layers and different degrees of language within the matrix, right? And we need to understand that there's the words we use, for sure. There's the energy that we present, that which Ross was talking about. There's the symbolism around us that's a language to us, that we either create meaning to or been given meaning to. There's all these different aspects of language and how they can directly impact and affect everything, right down to the cellular structure of your body.
Absolutely.
Right. And people just use it so happenstancely. They're just, if you look at, highly successful people, a very, very large percentage of them, their vocabulary is significantly different from someone who lives in the ghetto. Significantly different.
And you think, and sometimes it's so different. Sometimes you think they have like a speech impediment.
It's because their language component is something, whether they were taught or they stumbled upon or whatever, became something for them to understand that what they put out is what's going to come back from that realm. And the word, when we put word to something, it takes it from the realm of no thing to a thing. right? You have to label something in some way, shape, or form for it to formulate. Otherwise, it doesn't formulate, right? At one time, there was no word for this, but somehow someone came up with an idea of a tool that would do this and gave it certain characteristics that say, well, that is a pen or pencil, right? And the more we gave word to it and definition of it, the more variety we have of them. And the more variety we have, the more we find usage for it. And the more we find usage and variety and wording for it, then it's just a natural part of the accepted reality.
I like to use the medical industry, medical research, but medical industry for that example, because their terminology is so precise. They have so many different words for just a little different of a variation, a little bit different of a variation. Well, that's, well, why did you call it that? Well, because that's the blue version. We're talking about the red version, or, whatever the case is, so concise.
Yeah, it's like the Inuit Eskimos, 50 words for snow, right? 50 ways to describe snow. Well, snow is snow. It's like, but they've got 50 different words for types of snow. Right? So because that's their reality and that's what they work at. They use that in their environment in a variety of different ways based on the word they use and the circumstance situation they need it. Right? So yeah, so the words are one aspect of the language of the matrix. There's shapes, there's sounds, there's the formulation of not just words but phrases and sentences, and how those are utilized and how they communicate to you, how you communicate with them. So there's a variety of different degrees of that is embedded within the Infinity process. There's a whole section that we focus on, which we haven't even, we've touched on some foundation stuff with you as in the 7-day program, but it's stuff that if you don't have the structure in place, then going into things like the phonetics of things, then that doesn't make it wouldn't have the impact. Right? You need to have your ABCs before we can teach you the small words, before we teach you the phrases, before we teach you the sentences, before we teach you the paragraphs, before we teach you the story.
And all of this creates vibration.
Yeah. And if you think about, the manifestation thing, we go back to, and just along with the same metaphor I was just working with, right? My 8-year-old's capacity to consciously create a story, a written word story, is completely different than my 18 or my 30-year-old's ability, or mine, right? Because there's different aspects and different ingredients that I've picked up, or we picked up along the years, that allows us to be able to do more with it, right? So so there's a lot of different aspects, and it's when you get into the realm of personal growth, spiritual growth, and those kinds of things, you quickly start to realize that the more you think you know, the more you realize you just don't know.
Oh my God, that's such the truth.
It's
Well, you know what? I just started your Thursday sessions. I'm on number 6.
Oh, awesome.
When you said the ABCs, I had to laugh because that was so interesting. I'm really getting a lot out of it by doing that. So I'm just going to take them and get as far as I can in that.
Mm-hmm.
Because believe me, when you guys talk about some of these things, I get totally lost.
Well, our strategy is we have some stuff at a level where we believe that most people can kind of grab onto. And then when we feel that they grabbed onto it, we take them for a deep dive. So they kind of explore a different realm and then bring them back up.
Yeah, exactly. And as you progress, Linda, you'll find that it starts to get deeper and deeper, and like especially this year, because we're in our 2nd year now.
Mm-hmm.
And on month like 11, we're like, okay, so next year we're going to knock your socks off. So you're ready. You're ready to move to, the next, next level, next 2 levels, whatever the case. But
I'm trying to catch up.
oh no, that's great. That's not a problem. That's why we make all of that available, and we.
Yeah, I mean, it's great. I could
it's all
maybe I
sequential.
could replay it over and over if I
Yeah.
don't get it. So
Well, that's fantastic. Well, good. Well, and again, for everybody that's listening, that's out there as well, is that, when you're doing a replay of some sort, feel free to put questions in there, because we do go back and answer questions and such as much as we can. Or you can IM instant message either Gary or myself. We're readily available.
Linda, was it you that I just responded to? I think you were watching yesterday. I think I responded to someone was
Yes.
watching. Was it you? Yeah.
might have been. I have to go back and look, but when you did that one example of the vertical lines and the horizontal,
line down,
well,
line across.
I'm writing this down on a paper, but I'm making C's. That's why I could never get it to work for me. And then when you said that, I went, oh, if I wouldn't have put those as a C instead of, as my half circle as a C,
Yeah.
I might have caught on. Oh, well, that was really an interesting one.
Those are the great learning experiences.
It
So,
was. Yeah.
So, and as you can tell from the Gary's and myself's background, this is Matrix Month. We are kind of doing a little bit of an homage to the movie The Matrix, because it's the 4th part is coming out this month, next week, I think. Yes, and the reason we are doing this is because that particular film broke through for a lot of people. That was something that, going off of what you just said, Linda, that was something that it was a big message, but it was delivered in a relatable way.
It's interesting, if I can take a minute to say this.
Please.
Probably 15 years ago or so, I got involved in a Sylvia Brown study group.
Oh yeah.
And
okay.
She actually talked about this stuff, not quite the same, but like enough for you to start questioning things.
Mm-hmm.
And the one thing that struck me, and I think it was on the Thursday episode that I watched, you said, I think Gary said, you are God. Okay. We used to do this little saying going, I am God, I am part of God, I am God. And that was like an awakening moment of going, this is really interesting, because, coming out of religion, it's like you almost go into shock therapy when you try to break all that
so
up.
Separate. Yeah, you're taught you're so separate from God, right? Yeah.
Everybody hang on. The rabbit hole is continuing down another tunnel.
Yeah, and then I ended up getting involved in I started studying the Course of Miracles.
Oh, great.
Miracles, yeah. The Course of Miracles,
Marianne Williamson.
that things aren't real, and you go through.
Right.
Awesome.
And then, and then I'm moving on to other people, and then I discovered you guys this fall. So
wow. Well,
I know when you keep looking, it keeps showing up in different forms. So.
Yes, absolutely. And such, and this is again those portals and those synchronicities that happen, and they happen for a reason. They really, really do. And when we've talked about this in the past, and we're going to talk about this again in one of the master labs, but in this day and age, those synchronicities are maybe a little harder to define, only simply because technology now can create them. Technology, whether it be, the internet, your phones, whatever. And, then so many people are, oh, well, it popped up on my phone, so it must be. And you're just like, well, yes, but it also heard you talking about it, a few hours ago. So, but regardless though, we're true believers of that synchronicity, and it's there. And as I said, there have been these portals that, have been of opportunities for me in the past that I look back and go, oh, I could have made a decision there that would have taken me right there. And I now going back and looking, I'm like, and there was a reason that popped up, because that was something that I always wanted to do. But my brilliant mind at the time thought that oh, I'm not ready for that, or that's, I have something else that's more important, or whatever the case may be. And such. I had a filter, I had a shield, I had a wall that was in front of some of these things that happen. And that happens to a lot of us.
I had a friend who used to say, when we go places, we would always sit with people we don't know so
Mhm.
that we could maybe run into somebody that would be interesting,
Yeah.
or we'd learn something new.
That's how
And
we learn.
Yeah, I started doing that because that's what she always suggested. And it was kind of interesting, the different people you'd meet that way.
It is. It really is. And
It
sometimes
becomes problemsome when you go to the grocery store and go into someone else's car, though.
Oh, yeah. That gives you a few issues. Yeah.
I only did that once. But I mean, here's what'll happen. And this happens all the time now, to where I'll meet a stranger, and they will start talking to me. The subject matter will come up to what Gary and I are doing. I haven't introduced myself as in any sort. I'm not wearing any thing with a logo on or whatever. They will just start talking about synchronicities, or the energy of the universe, and we send these signals out, and all of a sudden I'm like, yes, we do. And it just happens. And I'm like, wow, I said, that's really, really cool.
Yeah, I'll share a quick story, synchronicity story, since we're talking a little bit about that. So I have a really good friend of mine, where we've been friends now for 30 odd years, or creeping up on 30 years, I think. And one day we decided we were gonna take a trip to the city, and we're about 40 minutes out of the city. And we get in the car and we say, you know what, let's just see where synchronicity leads us today, and anything that inspires us to do something, let's do it. And the whole day, so we get out, we get in the car, we set the I drove that day, and I was fairly new in the area, so I didn't really know the exact location of how to get to certain places. So I punched things in the GPS and would allow the GPS to kind of guide, and then we would just kind of whatever inspires us, we would do through the day. So we're driving, we're in conversation, we're talking about all kinds of cool stuff. We're just jamming and just kind of listen to music, and I'm driving, and then all of a sudden, again, because I'm not familiar with the territory, right? I'm not in the right lane to take the turn that I need to turn, right? And so I'm driving, I'm like, oh, damn, I missed the turn. Oh, well. And so we just kind of go. And then so obviously the GPS adjusts, and it does that. And so then I take the next exit, and we're on the next exit, and we pull up to the stoplight, and at the stoplight, we're just jamming with the music. We have the radio down, the windows down, and this guy aside from us, rolls down and says, hey, you guys look like you're having a great time. Total stranger, right? You guys look like you have a great time, and yeah, we're doing all right today. And so we're like, what do you do? And we're like, hey, yeah, and so we kind of made like a business connection there. That he had this big corporation, and we're like, well, okay, let's get together, and we jam. So we like shared each other's info, and then he goes his way, and we go. This is a stop sign, right? And then he goes his way, and we go our ways. And so we're driving again. I'm taking this, and then again another time I totally missed the exit. I drive by and like, oh man, that was the street. Okay, oh well, whatever. And we do this all the way to the city, right? And there's all these different things that popped up that were like so synchronistically bizarre. And then we get to the city, and we're driving around, we find a place to park, let's get something to eat, and as soon, like literally like within seconds of saying that, we see this restaurant, hey, oh, then let's do that one. And so we go to we park the car, and we go and we sit in the restaurant. We're sitting down, just again talking, and this guy that my buddy that I'm with hadn't seen for years shows up and comes in, and he goes, hey, and so he says, is that you? And like they reconnect. He sits down, we start talking about the guy's new book that he has going out, and like, oh yeah, why don't you come over to our place, we've got this thing going on next week, and this whole thing, it was just a whole day of just allowing the universe to flow to us, and we had the most amazing, and it didn't stop. It happened that way even coming back home, it was like the universe didn't want me to take that turn. And so it was the longest ride home and the longest ride there. And every every shift and adjustment, it was like, it's like life, right? You have these things where you just go here and it happened, and it just accepted it did. And you allow it to be what it is, and be open for something of value to come from it.
Mhm.
Right? But again, the average person would go, damn it, I missed that turn. Let me go around, go back and get it, right? And miss out on opportunities, right? Because they're so caught up in the conscious mind and the GPS giving them that one path. There's 1,000 different paths to the city.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's and there's 1,000 different ways to manifest something. There's 1,000 different ways for it to show up in your life. As far as if we just talk about the first 7 degrees that we talked about on Thursday, there's all kinds of different locations where something can show up for you. But if you think it has to show up in one location, then you're only going to look in that one location. Right? And so the art and the craft of allowing that creator within to show up is to know that all locations are valid. So I may manifest in my head, when I was this 13, 14-year-old kid thinking he could take on and transform the world, there is a possibility that the things that I was manifesting on the visual realm showed up in some other place of the world for someone else. Because one of the components that I missed was putting me in the equation. Right? I was so adamant about the visualization, I forgot to put me in the visualizations as a part of that component.
Or another version of him realized that.
So in other words, a location is not specific then. It can be open, but
Absolutely.
as yourself in that location. And must you visualize a certain location, how it looks like?
That you want to be careful with that though, because then you are really narrowing down your field. That's actually kind of what Gary just said. He goes, if you get so specific to that location, now you're only going to look for it in that location. Okay. I mean, without knowing exactly what you're talking about, it's like I want to build a house, and I want to build a house here. And that's what I'm going to put out. I'm going to build a house here, 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 here. But there's a better piece of property over here. It has water and it has more grass and it has a better view and just like that. No, I want it here.
Yeah, but earlier on,
this is gone. So again, location is important, as all of the pieces are important, but you got to be very careful not to be so specific.
Just a general place, except that you must be there.
Yeah, and I'm gonna just make a slight adjustment. You can be specific, you just can't be stuck on the specificness. Right? Because there is value in because here, and what I mean by that, Gene, is that, so we use the Ross scenario again. So you can want that house to manifest that house in that space, but maybe the reality is the time might be different. So there's another variable that needs to consider.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Yeah. So again, depending on the specific of what we're talking about, the way I would look at something like that would be that let's go back to building a house. In the way I would approach it is, instead of being so specific to an actual location, I would say I want the location to have these variables,
Characteristics.
Exactly. Thank you. You see the difference? So
Yes.
if you came to me and you said, well, I want the house to be right here. I say, what is the characteristics of this location compared to this location? Well, this location has this and this and this and this, and this one doesn't. Well, but this one over here does have all those characteristics. So would you wonder if that became available? Because if you're just stuck on that one, really, really stuck, I'm saying, and such on that, then that one might come and go. So if we take and we go, well, there's specific characteristics that of this. Well, this is just perfect. Well, what makes it perfect? Again, it's where we've stressed in so many of the past live streams is asking yourself better questions. Okay, so I want this location. Why do I want this location? What is it about this location that resonates with me so well?
And there's the key right there. So if you excuse me, if you want to kind of cover all the bases, right, you can have the ideas that you want, but be open for it to show up in the way that will serve you at the core of who you are.
Right.
And when you're locked into that, then it won't matter how it shows up.
Okay. And then you also say that we must also manifest with the time reference. Can you elaborate a bit of that?
Well, the idea is that you can have a window of time that you want something to manifest, but kind of goes back to some of what we've talked about. But to realize that it's only one variable in the whole manifestation thing. And so if you're locked into, $1 million millionaire by the time you're 20, right? Well, maybe you won't have the skill sets and all the other things to handle and manage the energetic field of $1 million till you're 30. But if it doesn't happen by 20 and you say, oh, it didn't happen, I'm going to give up on that and do something different. Well, all the stuff you did to get to that point gets dropped. Right? So the time variable, you can have a window of time, but again, I believe it always comes back to, hey, here's the intention of when I prefer this to happen, but I'm also open for the universe to happen sooner or later. It's just going to happen.
Right.
Whatever serves me and whatever is going to allow me to serve the way that I'm supposed to serve in this realm of reality.
Can you give an example of what you have manifested, which is a big thing? I mean, if you can recall something that you could share with us.
Yeah. So when I was, 1 second, let me just add someone new in. So when I was, how old was I at that time? Probably my late 20s. My late 20s, I would say. One of the things I wanted to do was travel. I wanted to travel and kind of just experience cultures and have the freedom to do that without having to worry about what most people worry about. And I ended up putting myself in a situation where my girlfriend / now wife at the time, we put out that we wanted to visit India, and this was what we wanted to do, and how it was going to happen. We had no idea. We didn't. We just knew we wanted to go and travel and experience India and a few other places in that side of the world. And I don't even know that I even really had a specific time frame set for when it would happen. I just knew that it would at some point. And at the time, we had started up the hypnosis centers in Ontario, and starting a brand new business and thinking you're going to leave for a chunk of time, probably not a good idea. So it wasn't. I didn't see it as a probability at the time for it to happen then. And a couple years into the hypnosis center, we were doing well enough that we thought we were going to start turning it into a franchise and go across the country and do all kinds of fun things with it. And through that whole process, there was a part of me that could feel that would then lock me down even more into this place, this location. And my wife and I talked we really wanted to travel and experience things, right? And so what we did, we just always held that intention. We just never really stuck on even the location really of where we would go. We just had an idea of India would be one of the great places. We thought, just all we had some friends that lived in different places in that area too that we thought we'd visit. And it happened that the scenario with the hypnosis centers turned into one that gave me a gut feeling that it was time for me to kind of step out for a little bit. So I ended up selling my shares in the corporate side of the hypnosis centers, so that I wasn't locked into that. And literally the day after the deal was done, I'm like, where are we going? And so we got, I don't know, we hadn't really put any plans around it, specifics. And so, we were thinking and talking about it. And then it turned out where we had two other friends that were in a similar time and place, and they were really close friends. That they were in a place where they were ready to travel too, and we're like, well, come with us, let's go do something. And so they're like, okay, sure, where are we gonna go? I don't know yet. Okay, well, let's start to talk about it. And within a week or two, at the time, the landlord that I was living with, they lived upstairs. She said that we'd be more than welcome to come and stay with her in India, because she's going there in a month. And they just bought a house there, and it was just that kind of stuff that happened, one thing after another. And so, okay, let's go there. And we went to India with zero plans on where we were going to go, how long we were going to stay there, or what we're going to, zero. All we had was a plane ticket there. And we did 6 months in India and 2 months in Thailand with no plans on. We had 1 week where we planned because we backpacked the whole thing, right? We had 1 week where we planned a 3-star hotel just to kind of treat ourselves. And everything was just showing up when it needed to, how it needed to. Sometimes the lessons weren't in the moment great, right, to say the least. But looking back, they were lessons we needed for the experience we wanted to go for, and the growth that we need to have, both as a couple as well as individuals, and even with our friends that came with us. And and so that was for me one of those things where it was just manifestation on dial. It was just like, okay, well, we're gonna where we're gonna go today, I don't know, let's look at the map. Okay, let's go here. All right, let's do that. And we kind of did our honeymoon the same way, right? We knew we wanted to go to Hawaii. That was our plan. Where we were going to, we said, well, let's plan the first week, and the rest of it, let's just kind of wing it. And we did 5 weeks in Hawaii for our honeymoon. Right? And again, none of it was with the exception of the first 9 days, because we went to do our HUNA level 1 training, and we got our certification. And the rest of it was just, I don't know, let's see where we're going to go today. And we plan, and then we just kind of, if the plane was available to hop islands, we'd hop. If not, then we'd stay on the island. If a particular hotel was of it, we just kind of winged it, and we had the most amazing time.
Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah. But again, there's all the ingredients and all the variables, and the more you lock into one variable having to be a certain specific way, the harder it is for all the other variables to bend and mold.
I have a great manifestation.
Give you what's going to be in alignment with your. Say it again, Linda.
Go ahead, Linda.
I have a great manifestation
awesome.
story.
Let's hear.
Well, this is a few years back. My girlfriend and I wanted to go on a cruise, and we were financially at that time not in the best place. So I just took and printed out a picture of the cruise and I pinned it on a little board, and then just kind of, went with that, seeing where the money would come from.
Mhm.
I had been in a watercolor painting class for a little while. So I had this particular picture I wanted to paint. And it was really, I kept thinking about it and thinking about it, thinking about it. So I went ahead, I painted it. There was an art show, a juried art show. I won that art show and I won $500. The rest just kind of came in increments, but it was like such an aha moment for me on manifesting. I said, oh my goodness, because I had no idea where that would come from.
And Linda, that is so apropos. I think millions of people have synchronicities and circumstances like that where, and I've heard so many of them like, well, I didn't, my car broke down and, and I just won this money. Or, this money just came in and then the car breaks down. It's like, oh, now I can't spend this money on what I wanted to do. And here's the thinking, though. It's like, well, maybe that money was brought to you because this circumstance was about to happen.
Right.
Okay. And it just worked in your favor. In your case, this is where we emphasize so much that you are the creator.
Mm-hmm.
So you put out there, this is something that I would like to do. Okay. And the universe provided the means of which to do it. Okay. In the case of a car breaking down or a medical bill or something like that, it's still, you're still being taken care of.
Exactly.
Okay. But we get wrapped up in that, I wanted to buy a new this with that money instead, but no, my car's got to break down. It's like,
imagine, Linda, if you had gone into that with the idea that, I better win this art thing in order to make the money. Imagine that, right?
Well, the funny thing was, I was so far from thinking I was going to win that, when they called me, I says, are you kidding? Really? And the other interesting thing is this is the first one of that show. They doubled the winnings on that.
Wow.
Show. Yeah. So, and that was the last time they did that too. So I look at it as it's done for me. Yeah.
Exactly.
So Linda, think about this. Think about this, because this is a really powerful, powerful lesson, not for you, but for everybody watching.
Yeah.
I wanted this cruise. This format, this formulation allowed that to happen. And then you won and like, oh, now I can go on the cruise. Great. What else do I want?
Yeah.
That's the approach. It's like, okay, this worked. This little test worked. What else do I want?
I manifested.
Do I want to go on a bigger cruise? Do I want to go on a whatever and such? It's just like, what else do I want? Does it mean that you're going to have to do paint another picture? Well, it seems to be something that you love, that you get your greatest joy and excitement from it. So yeah, I'd probably start there. But nevertheless, though, you have proved to yourself and to everybody listening that you are a creator. You are in your godness of, I manifested this. I had something that I wanted, and I manifested the means in which that it could happen.
And I think that's the thing cool. The thing I learned the most out of it is to step back a little and let it come to you, let it work itself out. Yes. Watch for the doors to open and then go through. It's kind of how I look at it.
So, and if you go off of what Gary said, and I think I said it earlier as well, if you would have created all these parameters of how that was supposed to happen, how that cruise was supposed to happen, probably wouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
But you would have gotten in your own way, really. And and one of the streams, because you're going through them, one of the streams you're going to come up on is making the unknown your friend, or something. I can't remember our exact title. And that's
Okay.
what it is. There was an unknown of how it was going to happen, but you were open for it to happen. You were
Exactly.
welcome. You had the welcome mat there.
That is so cool. That is awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
My
great.
daughter and I both we talk a lot about this. Has manifested a lot of things in her life. She's wanted to be on the road, to be free, and she's went through some struggles, but now she went and got herself certified as an RV inspector. She's on the
Nice.
road. She's living in her own place.
Cool.
She loves it. I mean, this is what she's always wanted. And we talk all the time about manifesting it. And when we get in that point where we feel almost discouraged, to just hang in there. It's just not, the timing's not right. Just
Exactly.
hang
One
in
of the
there.
variables aren't there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're coming up on kind of the end of our hour. Anybody else have some questions as well? Jeff, Christy, Pankaj?
Pankaj, yeah. Pankaj. Yeah, you guys are welcome either on the
Welcome
chat
to text them
or you can pop on the mic. Either one is any
Yeah.
of that is fine.
So
No,
these are all,
to hear all of your manifestations, and also to Linda. Good to hear that.
Oh,
Very
thank
encouraging. Yes. So, well, let's see whether we can manifest more and get it. Not let's see. We must for sure manifest and get it.
I mean, it's, I mean, if we talk about manifesting, I mean, Gary and I just came up on our, 8,000th member of the group. And it is something that we had thought about, but we didn't say, well, by December, we're going to be at 8,000. We just said, hey, you know what? Let's see where this is going to go. Let's see how, what we can do. We could just continue to put our energy and our excitement into this project, and it will just take its course. And we've had some, amazing growth. I got a message from a good friend of mine who actually we did our first interview with, and was kind of a catalyst for us. And she's like, "Oh my God," just like, yeah. I said, "What are you doing?" We're just like, "We're just doing what we want to do. We're doing, but what we're excited to do. We're doing what we get up in the morning and just like, oh, I don't have to do this. I get to do this." And such. And and we take the energy that everybody here, projects out, and we take that and we just transmute it into more energy and send it back, and it's all about that excitement. It's all about doing what you love to do. Linda's perfect example as well is where, she's, I love to paint, great. Then that is it. That could be it, for you. That's could be, your way of doing it. I mean, for Gary and I, we have other things that we do, but this is our absolute passion. And it's just growing exponentially.
Yeah, and if you're in a situation or scenario where something isn't manifesting the way your conscious mind thinks or hopes it would, just look back at is the location the right location or the optimum location? If not, then think about manifesting it somewhere else where it could be. If the location's fine, then you can say, okay, well, is my declaration of that reality solid? Is it at the core of who I am? Does it resonate true for me? And if it doesn't, then fix the declaration of your reality, right? Mm-hmm. Is the visualization, the visual component and the visual stimulation that you have for that, is that optimum? Do you need to tweak any of that? And if it is, then great. Then you go to the next thing. Okay, well, what are the stimulated actions that I'm doing to get me in the vibrational frequency that becomes a reality that I step into? and you look at your stimulated actions, and then you say, okay, well, if those actions are good and the image is good and the declaration is great and the location seems ideal, then maybe it's the emotions that I'm bringing up to it are not congruent with, or the right emotions. Maybe I need more passion, maybe I need more determination, maybe I need more anger, who knows, whatever it is that you're manifesting or wanting to manifest for that to happen, right? And then you say, okay, well, if that's all in place, then what are the questions that are going on in my head about that? How am I phrasing that? Am I, am I asking for what I want, or am I asking for what I don't want? And, we talk about that in the different streams. And then, right. and then in all of that, what are the habits? What are the strategies and techniques that I'm creating into habits and skills, so that is something that I am mentally, emotionally, energetically, and spiritually ready for that manifestation to show up. And the more you do that, and the more you practice that, then these things, they don't seem so insurmountable. It's, oh my God, I gotta figure out my thought process, or my language, or my emotions. You start to get better at it, right? Once you know the structure, and when you practice the structure, it just becomes easier. Once you know what A is, and B and C, and all 20, all of them together, then putting them together in different sequences is easy. But when you're working on A, all you know is A. When you're working on B, all you have focus is on B, and you might even forgotten about A, and it was just the thing until you've got them all, and then you can mix them and play with them. It's on the conscious realm. Remember, you're doing this anyways. From a spiritual realm, you're doing it anyways. What we're doing is bringing it to more conscious awareness, so that you can be more in conscious control and direction of where things are going. And I say hesitant with conscious because it's still conscious, aligned with the internal unconscious. It's the external matrix and the internal matrix in alignment with and converging, which next week's talk is going to be about. What is the infinity matrix? Right? We're going to bring back that and kind of, piece it together, so you get a little bit more of a holistic view of it. We haven't talked about it we're at 60 some episodes now. So we should probably get back to it and kind of bring back to, well, what is this thing these guys are talking about, the infinity matrix, and why should we hack it? How do we hack it? And is it even possible? I mean, we've shown many examples and given plenty of hacks to show that it is possible. I mean, we want to get back to the understanding of what is this thing called the infinity matrix.
And all of this, when it comes to manifesting, again, depending, if you are, like, for example, Gary and I, we have a definitive weekly meeting that we have on Fridays. And we are going over different ideas, different brainstorming, and such like that. And we have other meetings throughout the week too, but they're specific. We're going to work on this task. We're going to work on this task. But our Friday meeting is kind of our, melting pot of everything. But one of the things that we do at that particular time, because it's important that we are on the same page. We are constantly saying, how are you defining this? Because this is how I'm defining this. So when you're in a close partnership with somebody as well, you want to make sure that you're both sending out the same signaling, or close. So you're constantly like, well, how are you seeing this? And this is how I'm seeing, this is how I'm defining this. And if you are, if you have a business partner, or you have a significant other, and the two of you are consciously saying, this is the direction that we want to go, but you don't seem to be there, then it's a matter of just sitting down and saying, well, what are you thinking? Because this is what I'm thinking. Oh, no, I thought it was blue. Well, no, it's red. And again, just defining definitions, redefining, and putting the ideas together so that it's a unified signal for vibration is the best term. And you'll find that when you can do that, and I'm not in any way saying like, well, you're not on the same page as me, you're out of here. So it's like, no, that's the opposite effect. It's just like, no, just make sure that everybody's on the same page. because sometimes that those contradictions, and sometimes it's just maybe one small little contradiction that you're trying to get this out, and the person that's going to go on your cruise with you is not, or whatever the case may be. So it's all encompassing. Again, it's just another piece of this that that you need to that you'll want to look at.
That's the rabbit hole, people, for today. I had something else to jump on that, but I to add to that, which was a great story, but I can't share it because I've got my wife and I do a monthly couples massage, and I gotta get ready to go through that. So
You know what? You can tell them the story, and I'll go on the massage for you. Hey, we're a team. We're a team.
You'll
There's
take
a
one
line-
for the team.
There's
Thanks,
a
bro.
line there, but we're a team.
Thank you so much, Gary and Ross. Was very good sharing, and
Thanks.
we have very good tools to to get where we want to go.
Thank
Yeah, and thank you, Linda, for sharing. And
Mhm.
nice to see you, Chris and Jeff. Though we didn't see you.
Yeah, thanks for being on. We're here every
Let's start
Saturday,
somewhere.
same time.
Yeah.
This is
Saturday,
every
same
Saturday.
time. And so you can, I don't always remember to send out the reminder Zoom links, but it is the same link. And yeah, we'll be here for you. And if you are listening to this live, because we know people are coming watching this, remember to hit the subscribe, hit the bell button, like and comment on the channel as well, on the YouTube show. And also, if you're watching this just on YouTube and you don't know that we have a weekly live, it's Thursdays. For the rest of the month, it's 10 a.m. But starting in January, it's going to go to 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time Thursdays, and we stream here, YouTube, as well as on Facebook and a few other platforms.
Right, and all of our past streams are all loaded on YouTube. They're broken down by different seasons and such. So as what Linda's doing, she's going through and watching the ones that she's missed. But that information is there and it's available to you. And we just say, please use it. I mean, it's free. There's nothing, we're not asking for anything, just use it. And
access to it may change for VIP members in the new year, but it's definitely still going to be available for replays. Definitely for
well,
VIP.
I think everybody that's here is a VIP, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
But out of that 8,000 members of the group, a huge percentage of them are VIPs, which just gets them, added content, added access. So
additional things that we're going to do.
VIP again is simply, and people think we're just nuts, but the VIP is free as well and such. But what we've done with the VIP program is it just helps us refine the people who are really serious.
Well, the VIP means you've answered the questions and you're part of the group. Is that
Correct?
VIP?
And we
Okay.
have your email.
I didn't know if there was something else I was supposed to do.
Well, no, just as long as you have
The
your
only
email
qualification.
there too, so that we can communicate with you as well.
As long as you give us your email, you're on the VIP.
Oh, okay.
We send you all the special links of the things that are not out there to the general public.
Yeah.
And again, it's just like our time is valuable, and we have no problem with it. But again, we need to make sure that the people on the other side, on the receiving side, are just as serious as we are.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people that are out there that are. And if you think you're a VIP or you're not sure you're a VIP, just send me an instant message. Just say your name, your email address, says, can you check to make sure that all my data is current, and we'll start from there. So thank you, everybody.
Be well, everyone. See you
What a
next
great
time.
time.